Okay, folks, I'm going to open up the meeting today because you folks are a little bit later in the agenda. You'll be looking to appoint a chair who will take this position quite readily from me. I like to sit on the sides. But with that, I would like to welcome everyone to the meeting today and acknowledge with gratitude and respect the meeting is taking place on the traditional unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. And because there's been some small changes here in the chamber since you possibly were here last, if you want to speak, you have to just tap the little button to the right, and then you'll see the red light come on. So a little bit of a change since the last time you were here. So with that, I will proceed with the agenda and ask if there's any declarations of interest for any of you with any of the items to be discussed today. Seeing none, I will move to the approval of the agenda of August 16th.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You want to move her for the agenda?
Yeah, that would be great.
I so move.
Yep. Do we have a seconder? Yep. Paul? Okay, so then we're going to move to the approval of minutes of May 17th. Taking some time to look at that, but if you're happy with that, if I could have a mover. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, sure. Moved by Bill Campbell. Seconded by Paul. If there's any business arising from the minutes. And so with that, we're going to move into the regular agenda. So under discussion today, we have election of a new committee chairperson. I'll open that up for nominations for one of you, or if you want a couple of you, and then we can take a vote. But if you'd like to nominate somebody to be the chair, I will certainly take that under consideration.
I'm not sure that the agenda items A and B should possibly be reversed.
Yeah, you have to hit your mic just there to your right. Yeah.
I'm not sure that the agenda items shouldn't be reversed. We shouldn't discuss the priorities before the discussion of a election of a chairperson. I'm new to the committee. I'm not clear on what our priorities, what our purpose, and those things are, and I think that probably has a correlation as to, who might be the chairperson.
So I guess that is possibly a discussion that I guess if you have anything specific, I mean, you're here with your colleagues, you can direct any questions to me and I'll see if I can answer them. And then you folks can proceed to contemplate, who the chairperson would be. But there is a terms of reference for this committee. Maybe you haven't received that. And
I haven't seen that. No.
Yeah. So we will endeavor to get that out to you. What else do we need to get for Mr. Putt?
Terms of reference that are approved by the committee or not this committee, but the planning committee?
It would be the planning committee that oversees all of the planning work. The thing is with the terms of reference is that you do have an existing terms of reference, but you can also change the terms of reference. But you've got to make sure that whatever you're doing, that the staff people would ensure that if you wanted to change the terms of reference, that was sent over to the planning committee, who oversee this committee and planning board and heritage board and design review board. So Ellen has got the terms of reference up for you folks on your screen. So if you would like to take a little time, you can take a look at that and see what the mandate of this committee is. But as I mentioned, when you have a new chair and you want to engage in a discussion, that may be one of the first things you want to talk about, is how you see this committee proceeding in the future. When we discussed the mandate of this committee in the past, it was pointed out, that and I'm not, it's not for me to tell the committee what they should be doing, but there are a lot of people in the affordable housing space that are doing other things, both at the province and at the federal government level, and so at the local level, whatever you do should, pertain to affordable housing issues related to things that are affecting the city of Charlottetown, and and your mandate cannot, sort of go off into an area where other people are either have that territory or they have the jurisdiction to make certain decisions.
And, Mr. Chair, if I could just add that I believe Mr. Paul Krant was referring to the terms of references, if they were approved by the planning committee, they were, and also they did go to the council advisory committee, and they were approved there too. So these are the terms of references. Yeah, I know it was stalled for whatever reason, I don't know, but they did go to the council advisory committee, and that is the committee that advises council on membership to standing committees, membership to advisory committees, and also making recommendations about terms of references for standing committees and advisory committees.
And I may just take this opportunity for the new people on the committee. When you're on the committee, you are here at the behest of council who have appointed you folks here, and because affordable housing can be at times very topical, and sometimes the media wants commentary. Your chair should be working with staff in regard to if they want to speak publicly, because you're here to advise council, but not to take your own positions in regard to certain things. If it's something that you're working on, which is a part of your mandate, then if you work with me and our communications people, we can ensure that the messaging that's coming from this committee is in line with your mandate. And again, I just wanted to make sure with the mayor that you folks do have a role here, but the council, if you move in a direction that was contrary to what they thought your mandate was, they may be asking either the mayor or myself in regard to what is their mandate and why are they speaking about this element of affordable housing. You can speak to the media in your capacity as an individual, but you just have to be careful. It's the same as the planning board. The planning board gives direction directly to council and design review board, so they don't speak on behalf of the city. So just a point of clarification. So with that, are we comfortable heading in the direction of an election, or and then you can continue to discuss the mandate then with your new chair?
Paul, you have to use the mic. Again, it's, as Ellen will tell us all the time, you have to turn on the mic. It's the,
There it is.
yeah.
I just want to clarify that this committee is probably only in force until maybe the council election in November. And then it might get remade at that time possibly, or I just want to clarify that if anybody knows the answer to that.
I'm going to answer that, but I'm going to use the mayor as the backup. But the reality is that the mayor appoints a lot of the. Is it the mayor that?
No, it's under the new procedural bylaw that was passed November 30th,
Right.
December 4th of 2018. It is the responsibility of the council advisory committee.
Okay.
Previous to that, it was the responsibility of the office of the mayor. But I think it's a more collaborative approach.
Okay.
And just to follow up what you're saying, Alex, yes, most likely there will be, after the election with a new council, new mayor, it will decide to look at the validity of advisory committees like we did the last time. But I'm quite positive that this committee, advisory committee, will remain in place because if you look at some of the changes that have taken place over the last several years, in particular short-term rentals and the regulations, and Ellen gave me some numbers about construction of multi-apartment units in the city of Charlottetown. Since 2019, there were 735 multi-apartment units constructed. Of that 735 units, 57% are affordable. But using the definition of the provincial government, which is 30% of family income, and CMHC, which is 80% a medium, and then a 10% for affordability. So it's 30% below the market value, and that's based on a geographical region.
When you say affordable, does that mean subsidized?
No, there are two formulas. There's one with the province, and that provincial definition is 30%, and Bill can correct me if I'm wrong, 30% of your gross income or 25% of your net family income. The Canadian Mortgage Housing Corporation is a federal program, and it looks at the median, 80% of the median for a geographical area like Charlottetown, and then they add another 10% or deduct 10% because of affordability. So there are two definitions. If you want to.
Yeah, I just want to say that I'm involved in a private nonprofit housing corporation that's funded directly by Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, and the percentage that we use is 25%.
Of net income or gross income?
Of the I'm sorry, was your question of the gross? Yes, of the gross amount.
So, again, it complicates it because when we had Michelle Richard here not too long ago to speak about CMHC's role in housing throughout Canada, she had a definition that I referred to, and Bill, who's with the King Square Affordable Housing Corporation, they have another definition. So CMHC has a number of.
Okay, so if you folks are comfortable, we can move to the next item on the agenda, which is the election.
I'd like to nominate Robin Graham as chair, if she's willing to accept, pending the vote of the committee.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm cool with that. I'm also sorry I was late. I ran into construction twice.
So we have Robin's name put forward. Is there anyone else that would like to nominate anyone else for the position of chair? Are there any other nominations? I think I have to say it 3 times. I do watch from the sidelines. So are there any other nominations for chair? And with that, it would appear that Robin is your new chair. She can take this position, and I will take mine back over on the sidelines. But again, thank you, and I will hand it over to Robin at this time.
So since I missed a few minutes, where are we on the agenda?
6B.
Okay. 6B. Do we have any other business that anyone wants to bring up?
Again, I'm not, because I just left there. I thought the main purpose of today was to get ourselves a chair,
Okay.
but in light of the fact that you're meeting, I think you should try to take advantage of the time that's afforded to you. So if, issues about the mandate or other things that you would like to prioritize, I know that you don't have to make any definitive decisions today, but I think the thought was that, once the chair was, appointed, we would try to allow you folks to, kind of rejuvenate your committee and think about some things. And then when we come back, whenever the next meeting is, then we can have a more fulsome agenda. But, I think it's a great opportunity for the group to ask questions of either staff or just the group in general in regard to where you folks see yourselves proceeding. And again, in light of the timeline that the mayor alluded to, there's kind of a short-term horizon in regard to after the election, presumably, hopefully you'll all be back, but it's just a matter of, there's so many things going on in regard to affordable housing. If you have any questions of yourself, or not yourself, of myself or the mayor, we would be more than happy just to update you on city initiatives or things like that. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
And if I could just follow up, Madam Chair, there was discussion about adding the two members that departed. I believe it was Jamie McDonald and your former chair, Bob Gray. So the Council Advisory Committee made a decision not to replace those or fill those positions until after the election. So this is the Advisory Council, the five of you, and I think it's a great opportunity to look at some options, not options, I shouldn't say, but some priorities for the next couple of months that could be possibly part of the campaign 2022. And I can tell you that the meeting that we had last week with Matthew McKay, the Minister responsible for Social Development and Housing, his concern is very much focused on the tent encampments in different parts of the city, and that we're looking at a plan going forward, but it will not involve horses and bulldozers in removing the encampments. It's trying to work with all the social partners within our community, including the King Square, the Affordable Housing Corporation, private developers, churches, and so forth. So I think there's an opportunity here for some just discussion as part of this meeting. Thank you.
Yeah, do it.
Jeez. Okay, King Square housing is my main involvement, but I'm also the communications coordinator for the Charlottetown Area Christian Council. And in that role, I have been approached by the Department of Social Development to see if we could rally the churches, all the member churches of the Charlottetown Area Christian Council, into looking carefully at their premises, at their halls and stuff like that, to see if they could be transitioned into some kind of temporary housing for homeless people. And then I got another call from Spring Park United Church, which I have to meet with, and Sharon Cameron, you might know her as the former deputy minister. She goes to that church, and the Reverend Bill McLeod, I think, is the pastor. They want to meet because they have all kinds of space, which I didn't know they had, Mr. Mayor. And they want to see if they can put together some kind of a project that would involve the city, involve CMHC, involve the province, and involve, I guess, King Square as kind of a lead in it. So those are possibilities that I think we're going to look into seriously, because I'll tell you, just give you one example of how bad it is. We have a crisis center down on Weymouth Street, and we put a guy in there who was homeless. His friends were all the homeless people in town. So he went back to them, and he said, hey, I finally got a place. The place was packed. There was about 25 people sleeping on the floors in this guy's apartment. And unfortunately, they did a lot of damage, and it cost us a lot of money, which we don't have. So it's a real issue, and it's hard to know how to, you try to help somebody, and geez, they almost destroy you. It's hard to deal with. Anyway, I'm going to meet with the churches. That might be a temporary good solution if we can get enough churches involved in this. That's it.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. And I also think it's really important to like what you said, like not to be violent or not to evict people from tents and encampments because of what we've seen in Halifax and cities and all around Canada. And I really think we need to talk directly with these people who are unhoused. Why are they picking tents? What are shelters missing? Like, what do they need directly? Do they need bottles of water? Do they need, I don't know, what do they need? We should straight up ask them, why are you here? What do you need? Why are you in a tent versus in a shelter? Like, what are the barriers? You know what I mean? It might be obvious. Maybe all the shelters are full, but
Every story is different and really unique, you know?
yeah.
I asked myself, how come you're in this situation? Stories. You know, every story is different, and over at King Square, we get to meet most of the homeless people. They apply, they're hoping to get an apartment. You know, we had one guy in not too long ago, and he said his father died or something, and there was some money left in a will, and him and his sister started fighting over the money, and she had possession of the house, and she kicked him out, so he's homeless. I mean, every day it's different. That's just my latest story.
Yeah, I think my fear right away when I saw like all the news stories recently is that, you know, they've been there for quite a while, not all of them. But I was talking to Hannah Bell, and she said she's known about people in tents since 2018. My fear is that people will start knowing where they are, and like residents will start knowing where they are, and I don't know how to explain, start, you know, finding reasons to want them to leave, if that makes sense. Like, find out they're down the street from me in the woods, and I'm bothered by that, even though they've always been there. Does that make sense? Like a not in my backyard type of attitude. And I'm scared that even though the police have said they're not going to evict them in general, I'm scared that they're going to anyways. And I'm wondering, what can we do about that?
That was one of the items I had jotted down on my notes is the plan. I mean, I wanted to know the purpose. You provided that, and if I could get a hard copy of that'd be great. If I could get someone talked about a mandate, if I could get some information on the mandate and the direction for this committee, that'd be great too. But that was one of my other questions. What is the plan? How many homeless people are there in Charlottetown? Do we know that answer?
In the article, there was at least 50.
Okay, and I assume that Charlottetown is no different than anywhere else, that number is growing every year?
Madam Chair, if I can just answer that question. So, Mike, you can look at Moncton. Fredericton is taking an approach of actually purchased a hotel, an old hotel. They're using that for multi-purposes in terms of those that are homeless without work, but there are, as Bill knows, there are those that are homeless that do work, have no place, but they have to get up and work in the morning. So I think this facility in Fredericton is providing some options for the homeless, whether that is if you're not working, but if you're working, there's a separation in the facility. St. John is experiencing a lot of issues. Halifax, as you know, last fall, was it last fall? Yes, it was last fall. They actually went from encampment to encampment. And this year they're having an issue in, I believe, the north end of Halifax. So it's a growing problem. And as Rob and our chair has said, that this is not a new issue. Homelessness and sleeping in tents is all across the country. I believe that the province and the city of Charlottetown, and hopefully other municipalities will join in trying to find a better solution than just a tent, but more of a fixed roof over people's heads. And, you know, one of the recommendations that we made was that, as you know, FEMA, which is the Federal Emergency Measures Agency in the United States, anytime there is a hurricane or there's a natural disaster, they bring in many mobile homes or mobile facilities. And maybe the province could look at that as a temporary fix until we find more permanent residence for these individuals that we're talking about today.
But does Charlottetown and the province have a plan? Is there land reserves? Is there space available? Is there a budget to deal with these issues?
Yeah. Well, let's just make it very clear, and Alex knows this quite well, that housing is not a municipal mandate. It's not within our municipal authority. It's a provincial and federal responsibility. But the city of Charlottetown has been a facilitator in providing tax incentives for affordable housing, making our zoning and development bylaw more flexible to give bonuses for affordable housing. So we're doing our part. As for this issue, we did meet last week. There was a planned meeting. It could be possibly this Thursday. I believe it's next week, to follow up from our first meeting on how to address it. And I think Bill Campbell alluded to one of the possibilities, and that is to engage churches and other organizations to provide facilities that have a fixed roof over anyone's head or over anyone that is homeless.
Didn't the Mental Health Association, or I'm not sure who they were, they just built a building over here on one of the streets, a new building, and apparently part of that is going to be affordable or subsidized type housing. Is there plans
It's
for?
the Canadian Mental Health Association, yeah.
Okay, is there plans for more developments like that?
Well, we're always planning, and it's just a matter of getting the partners to get really interested, like the province in our case. The last big project we built was Martha Place, and the city here gave us about a 20,000 plus tax incentive. So, if we get that kind of cooperation, it's easier to get CMHC on board, or the banks for that matter, if they know that all the other partners are quick to jump in and do their part.
Again, Mike, you may be asking these questions of me about what are we building? Again, we're not the builders of affordable, social, subsidized co-op housing. That's a provincial and federal responsibility. We're trying to be the facilitators, and this advisory committee is one part of that facilitation, is bringing ideas, bringing people into City Hall or into the municipality to get a better understanding of what we can do to address this issue. And this is not something that just happened over the last 4 years. This has been ongoing for a number of years, as Bill will tell you his stories. But I can tell you that the City of Charlottetown have been working with the province and will continue to work with the province. We're working with our federal partners through CMHC and our MP. And speaking to a developer or a contractor today, and Craig probably knows this better than I do, that contractors are maxed out. They cannot get the laborers, the materials, and some projects that are already in the queue to go to the next stage, that is actually dig the foundation, pour the footings. They can't get contractors because there's not enough labor, and the supply chain is an issue. So we have to look at other solutions to getting fixed roofs over these individuals that are homeless.
Well, and that's why I ask about the plan. Does this committee have a plan, to move forward? And does it have a plan to create 50 new units for people to live in per year, or whatever? And how does that work? And how does that happen? Somewhere someone's got to plant a seed. If I'm hearing this right, and move it through the proper channels and make it happen. Or am I not understanding something?
You're right, and that plan has started with the first meeting last week between the province and the City of Charlottetown, which included Chief Brad McConnell, our interim CAO, Donna Waddell, the chair of the Standing Committee for Planning, Development, and Heritage, Councillor Terry McLeod, myself, and we had a great discussion with the minister and his team, and now we have to find a path forward. So we had that initial meeting, and the Minister McKay is very focused on finding solutions, because we're now into August, September will be here, October will be rolling around, we'll be into winter. So he wants to address this sooner than later. So hopefully the next meeting, we'll have some more answers, or he will have some responses to what you're asking, which are very good questions.
And how does this committee fit into all of that?
We make recommendations to the planning committee. You know, that's what our role is. So we
Where do you come up with these recommendations?
right here.
So Mike, you're looking for like measurable, obtainable goals and how to reach those, and at the end of the day, we sit back and look and see if, you know, if we're short, we want to create another 100 roofs over people's heads, you want to be able to sit down and have that goal and be able to measure it a year later, correct? That's kind of like, where's our, and as far as I know, we're not the ones to set those goals, but if we're the ones to kind of, provide, I guess, ideas and insight and how to, we said the terms of reference, but our terms of reference don't necessarily sit down and come up with a structured.
Madam Chair, again, just to follow up from what the mayor has indicated, the funders of affordable housing are at the federal and the provincial level. The project that you're talking about from the Mental Health Association, that's coming through one of the federal programs, and they have many federal programs. That's just, there's just not one federal program to get money for affordable housing. That was called the Rapid Housing Program. The building was put up very quickly, and they met that criteria. But to the mayor's point, I mean, even though we're not the funders, these issues happened inside municipalities. That's why municipalities are much more, I think, proactive to work with those upper levels of government to ensure that these issues are being dealt with. We deal with things like zoning. That's the world that I work in. Things like short-term rentals is the things that I work in. If there's any code issues or whatever with some kind of, a small or tiny homes or whatever, those are things that we can do at this level. But I think in regard to your role, and again, the mayor is here and that's his job as well. You folks are kind of the eyes and ears in the ground in regard to what you're seeing and hearing in regard to the affordable housing file. Mr. Campbell works directly in it, so he's clearly got his ear to the ground. But you folks also see what's going on in the community. So when you bring something forward here and ask that it be explored. Either the staff will clarify, or even if it's something that the municipality can't do, the discussion that goes on here can be utilized by the mayor and myself and others at meetings that we do have with the provincial government, and say this is what we're hearing that people in our community want the council to do, and to work with you to ensure it gets really implemented. But affordable housing, I'm relatively new to it, but it's complicated, and there's many people in the space, and there's a number of different people that are working on pieces of it. And I guess this is what we struggled with the first time when we got into the terms of reference, is what can this group do that is unique from all of these other funding agencies and what they're doing, to either bring the message forward so that message and those concerns are either brought to the attention of those higher levels of governments or some funding agency, or it could be changing our regulations. Maybe Mr. Campbell asks that we do something to our incentive program or something along that line. So this group is a bit of a brainstorming group, but you do want to, if you can find your space, meaning that somebody else isn't already doing it particularly at the federal or the provincial government. The provincial government have a number of people working on affordable housing, and again, they're not all in the same place. So usually when folks bring things up, I try to find that out. Is there somebody else doing this? Do they have the mandate for that at this time? But eventually, this group has done some good work. It gets communicated to council that what this group would like done at the municipal level, and but it's like anything. We can always improve, and the issue with these committees, I work a lot with the planning board. Sometimes if you're a new planning board member, it takes you some time to find out, to get your real sea legs in regard to what is my role as a planning board member. It's a very different as a planning board member than it is as a counselor. And sometimes we have to clarify what their role is as well, but I don't know whether any of this is really helping, but you're a committee of one of the various committees of council that I as a staff person, if it's planning related, I interface with. But, again, this one isn't as straightforward because it is such a big space, like something like the Design Review Committee. It's very easy to put a terms of reference around that in regard to what they're supposed to review, how they're going to review it. Affordable housing is just such a big, big space. And to the mayor's point, there's so many complexities in it. Even the federal government, who has money now, has a hard time ensuring that money goes right out the door and it gets translated into actual housing, because then you have to go through the provincial government, then you have to go through the municipal government. It may necessitate a rezoning. That's going to involve some public input. And by the time that's all done, maybe that funding is not available any longer. So, but the more we can all inform ourselves in regard to what the other groups are doing, it's some of staff's role is to help you folks to know whether somebody else is doing something that you may feel is impactful. We will try to help you along the way with that. So again, I know it was kind of a rambling there, but I'm just trying to do my best to offer you what is services that I can help you with. But you folks are you have a unique role here at the city to help on this file and to bring things forward and to see what we can do to, again, at the municipal level, ensure that there's no roadblocks to creating this very necessary housing. And the issue right now is speed. Speed is, it seems, and again, I'll defer to the mayor because he talks to those upper levels of government more than I do. It doesn't even necessarily seem to be the money right now. It's other impediments to it actually being built. And again, we have processes here, and the processes that we have, and just like, no matter what somebody says to me, they may have the best project in the world, but if they come to my office, and some people say to me naively, Alex, we've got this multi-million-dollar project, but we don't have time to go through a rezoning. How can you facilitate it? I have to tell them there's nothing. We're the lower level of government, and we're mandated to do those planning processes the way that they are laid out. So we have to go through the process. So nobody can expedite that or necessarily. There may be, maybe higher levels of government can do it, but at the local level, we cannot, or I cannot, sort of give anything sort of a pass, no matter what's happening. But we can improve the processes. We can make it easier for affordable housing projects if they're struggling with one element of the process. So, again, just points of clarification. Thank you.
I'm just going to say that what I've discovered over the years working with these different levels of government is that if they like the idea and we don't quite have a program that fits it, they'll make it fit. They're very, very flexible that way. Like, for example, up in Summerside, we're doing 110, well, I'm not sure, the number keeps going a little bit. We have a project in Summerside. They tore down the old Holland College. They're building some buildings, but we have King Square has an interest in that, and we're building affordable housing. Now, we were having trouble getting different levels of government excited about it at first, but King Square had the idea. We wanted to do a project where 25 of the units were rent to own, and the only organization that could make that work would be a nonprofit. Private developers wouldn't touch it, not enough margin in it for them. So we have that thing going in Summerside, and it's going very well. So I think that, if they're flexible. If you've got a brilliant idea, CMHC will bend over backwards to help make it work, and that's cooperating with the province to make it work, and the city.
So that's an interesting project.
So are you actually doing the rent-to-own units in Summerside?
I'm sorry, I forgot to put my hearing aid.
That's okay. So you're doing the rent-to-own project in Summerside?
Yeah, we're doing that in Summerside, yeah.
Okay, was it hard to get them to go for that?
Well, we're still crunching the numbers on it. It's like, when you get down to who are the lucky people that are gonna get
Yeah.
to own their units, you can't just pick the person that, will be involved in a 25% subsidy, so their income is such, they'll have to have a job, or they'll have to be making enough money to add $200 or $300 or $400 over and above their rental. To make it work. So we're working on that now, and unless you're a nonprofit, you wouldn't even think of that.
Yeah, I like that idea. Because I know a lot of like younger people, we can't afford houses, but it would be nice to be
Yeah.
able to rent to own even a unit, like almost like a condo, but just an apartment.
I'm always harping at the provincial government. I say, look, why don't you give us nonprofits a little more play?
Yeah.
We can make things work. Yeah.
There should be something almost like a CADC, which handles affordable housing, a provincial, I think CADC is a provincial set-up agency that is, kind of does the Charlottetown area, obviously. And they do own housing now, some. They,
CADC here, they have a little, what department you call it?
yeah, there's down on the waterfront. There might be others. I'm not aware of any, but there probably is. But, I mean, they've had a strong record of success, so there's no reason why the province couldn't set something up like that. Like a nonprofit, exactly what it is, which could apply for funding from the different levels of government to make projects happen. Or maybe that's an extension of what Bill does somehow with King Square on an expanded basis, maybe. I don't know. Anyways, just proposing it.
There's a lot of talk going on there. On it as fast as I can,
Yeah.
I guess.
So just to follow up, Bill, just to follow up what Paul was talking about, CADC is the Charlottetown Area Development Corporation, so it's the province, city of Charlottetown, town of Stratford, town of Cornwall. That's the board is made up of those four members, the stakeholders. And yes, the mandate, I know some of the members of CADC, especially our representatives from the city, have asked to look at more affordable housing as an objective, or reignite or reinstate that objective for CADC, but that remains to be seen. But again, going back to speaking to a contractor just before coming into this meeting, it is very difficult to get any building going because of the backlog of labor and supply chain. So we have to now think of Plan C, as you said earlier, Mike. So that could be looking at churches or looking at facilities that could provide that, fixed roof over the head of this homeless population. But again, I want to make sure that what the Madam Chair said about her fear of the police coming in or going into these encampments, I believe the police chief has made it very clear to the minister. We want to work with our provincial counterparts. We want to work with the NGOs, i.e. the Adventure Group, the Charlottetown Outreach Centre, to ensure that there's no horses and bulldozers going into these encampments, but we find a solution. We keep the place secure and safe, so we do have staff that are looking at ways of providing some cleanup service in order to keep people healthy, safe, and secure. And I think that's a point that was made very clear. And Alex, I think you were part of the meeting last week that our chief of police made it very clear that I am not going in here to disrupt things unless we have a solution to where they will go with a fixed roof over their head.
Madam Chair, I think, and the mayor was at the meeting, and I was I phoned into the meeting, but I do think that the chief I did put the caveat, though, on it's tricky for him if it's private property. If it's on private property owners have rights, and that, so I think he was alluding to the fact that in a lot of cases, they're on public property, and public property is easier for governments to deal with as opposed to private property. But look, the mayor can follow that up with a discussion with the chief, but I just, I thought I heard that little caveat in that meeting, so just to clarify, thanks.
Anything else?
I don't know what else to add to this, except that.
Yeah, I gotta remind him.
No, I see Mike's point over there too, like, what's the plan, like, what's the, what?
Yeah.
Is there some kind of a strategic plan in writing, and you don't see that, and that's because we don't have one. It's a work in progress, I guess is the best way to say it right now, and we're part of that. So, the meeting I had with Cornwall, I made a presentation with Cornwall, but I had the people that presented to us on the screen from Montreal, CMHC experts, and Cornwall put it to me this way. I said, one of our main problems is land. And she said, and Minerva and the gang said, we've got the land. If you can put together a proposal, we've got the land. I mean, that was incredible for them to say that. Now, I haven't done anything with your council yet, Mr. Mayor, but if I could go to your council and you could say, we've got the land, man, you watch me move.
Yeah, but Bill, you have 50 units out there at Martha's Place, and we have a tax incentive program that you're already.
No, you're already very generous
Yeah,
to me.
no.
I didn't not taking anything away, but
But that
I
was,
was looking for more.
Madam Chair, that was, of course, you're always looking for more. That's good on your part. But that was one of the requests made by the minister. They need to find land within Charlottetown, and
Yeah.
it can't be in Winslow. It can't be out by the North
Well,
River
close to the
Causeway.
city centre.
It has to be close in around the city center. So that search, I think Alex and his department have already started, and that will be forwarded to the minister as soon as possible. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Doesn't the city already have sort of like an inventory of land, not necessarily that the city owns, but that might be available for affordable housing?
Alex?
Good question.
We clearly can identify, with parameters. We have a geographic information system. So if we know what size of a lot somebody's looking for, we can identify holistically all of those vacant lands. And again, in regard to Mr. Campbell's comments, I mean, surprisingly, the city of Charlottetown has very little vacant land that it doesn't have an express purpose. I mean, we've looked at that. And maybe one other thing that I would just try to help clarify, you folks, and I'm trying to respond to Mr. Podger's comment in regard to, how does this group really get their teeth into things? But again, just as one of those points of clarification, the majority of affordable housing units in the country are built by private developers. So it's the private development community who are tapping into programs, right? They're the builders. They see an opportunity. They would partner with Bill or someone else. So as much as, maybe this group would like to get in and say, we would like to hit a target, you can't hit that target. It's the funding agencies that need to be stimulated, I guess, to hit those targets. It's from my job is to make sure once they're ready to go that I can facilitate the planning process, get them a permit, get them out the door. There are some, some tax incentives, but that's a little bit of the challenge in regard to, like, everybody wants to say, we will do X, but we are, there's so many groups involved in this. It all starts with the funding, but the doers are typically, governments do build units, but they don't do that as much. They rely on nonprofits in a lot of cases.
Make sure when the project is finished, make sure that the nonprofit owns the thing. Because what happens when you get these private developers, okay, we'll play ball with you for 10 years or something like that. The end of 10 years, all their tenants are running to poor old King Square saying, they just jacked our rent way up and they're getting away with it. It's ridiculous.
But those are the terms that was approved under by CMHC for the affordable housing, unfortunately. The only group that I know that has the ability to manage projects and that is like a nonprofit would be CADC. They have a team there that can actually, well, they essentially built a new library. So they have the knowledge and I'm guessing the capacity to do these types of projects if they desire.
See, we're not quite big enough yet. We have 220 units across the country, across the province right now. Just if we had about another 200 units, we would have a little more clout, but we're almost there.
Seems to me at one of the meetings, I think it was the people from CMHC indicated that bring us the projects, we've got the funding.
Again, with the emphasis on, and, you know, again, the mayor's, I think, better tuned into this. And I don't think necessarily, I think funding had been a problem for a long time. Now I think the money is there, but all of the other pieces aren't lining up as readily as they should. Now, having said that, I mean, to give the municipalities, or all municipalities, are more directly involved because they somewhat have to get involved because they're the ones that deal with the issues that come from the lack of housing, right? I mean, it's, even though they don't fund it, they're not responsible for it, but they have to do the police services, if there's any fires or any emergency services that come from it. So now I would say, and again, I hate commenting on other people, but just from my viewpoint, there seems to be a lot more collaboration to make sure that from the top of the pyramid, federal government to the municipality, they're trying to clear the decks as readily as they can, find the developers that can do it, and just get it done without delay. But I think the logjam is not necessarily anymore with the funding. I think it's that middle part, finding land that's suitable, properly zoned, that is approved and ready to go. Those are some of the issues that are some of the stumbling blocks to actually delivering it on the ground.
And I'm hearing all that, but I also heard something earlier about 50 people in the city living in tents on private property and what have you. And winter's coming, it will come, and those people will have to be dealt with. I don't imagine, hopefully that we don't have any deaths in the city. What did you do last year? And what is the plan to do with those people this year? I mean, there must be a plan, and you must have dealt with it last year.
Not to this scale. Yes, there were homeless. The homelessness have been, as the chair alluded to earlier, the MLA for District 11 said that she knew about this back in 2018. Yes, it's been around, but now the numbers are greater, and the ages are right across the spectrum. So young, middle-aged, old. So who's the most affected? Well, the weather will dictate that. We don't want to wait till that happens. And I think the Minister McKay made it clear, Alex, correct me if I'm wrong, they want to do something as soon as possible, not with tents, but fixed roofs over the heads.
Some of these organizations, they can't carry out the mandate properly because, like, there's Deacon House, there's Bedford McDonald House. Which one? Blooming. Oh, there's all kinds of these places that they'll take people in, but they have a specific mandate. And what's happening is they're calling people like me up and they're saying, Bill, we got 2 or 3 people here. They should be gone long ago, but there's no place for them to go. Can you help? Please help. In other words, their mandates are getting stifled because there's not enough spaces for these people to go.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I read, I forget which article earlier this week, but they had compared unhoused people calling into shelters to how hard it is to get into a clinic. They said some of these shelters were full by 8 a.m. for the following night. And that is really, really scary because, like,
Yeah.
what are you going to do? You have literally no choice. And I think it's important to remember that really a lot of us, that could happen to any of us. Like, if I get evicted tomorrow, apartments similar to mine are $1,000 more. It would be me. Like, these are people, they're our neighbors. It's really important not to let them be dehumanized. And I'm also wondering, kind of random question, if it would be beneficial to bring someone in from like the Outreach or Peers Alliance to talk to us, and if people think that would be beneficial.
Sure. I think very, very beneficial, I think. We have to know, like, you have to know what these groups are experiencing out there. And if we heard firsthand, they'd be here, they'd be pleading for, well, you know, I need some land. Hope you're listening, Mr. Mayor.
I would think we'd also want to hear from maybe the developers to hear, you know, what's the roadblocks that they have and to making these
Be
affordable
interesting to
situations
have, like, the
happen.
guy I work with is Tim Banks, so be interesting to have him give us his 2 cents in here.
I got to bite my tongue when I say this one, but Alex, I hear what you say, and I don't disagree with you, and I appreciate you sharing your knowledge, but it sounds to me like the bureaucracy is alive and well.
I guess to respond to that, it's not the bureaucracy, it's the public who we work for. That's the issue. Because when we go for a rezoning or you're dealing with affordable housing projects, council deals with them month after month after month. And lots of times residents don't want a standard apartment building in their area. So, a staff can get the applications through the system, but democracy is the way that it is, and it's there for a purpose. And again, could we do a better job? Absolutely. But the reality is that the federal government knows exactly why across the country why these projects aren't happening on the ground. And the fact is that it's the public who are in these communities who are pushing back that they don't necessarily. They're not comfortable with these projects in their area, so that puts a lot of onus on local politicians. So I know that's kind of a sensitive topic, but I think it's a reality that we need to be mindful of. It's not a case of that staff are turning down these projects, but it's hard if these projects end up in a neighborhood, a ward councilor is dealing with a group that he's there to serve, and at times, not always, but at times, the public aren't as receptive.
And just to add on to what you said there, Alex, Michael, over the last couple of years, we've taken some ideas that came from this group on secondary apartments, on guest suites that in past years had to go through a process, a public process. Now it's an administrative process. So if you have a extra space in your home that you can provide a secondary unit that you can make available for a renter. That makes it easier for people to find rental spaces. The regulations regarding STRs, I give credit to this group that it did come out of this group, and now we have a framework in place for short-term rentals. I know you were very concerned about. But if you look at another idea that came from the planning department, and that was to give more intensification to property owners. So I believe, Alex, if you have a property that's 0.3 acres or maybe, 3.33 acres or more, you can add another unit on it. The department was asking, let's reduce that, and so was a local architect, so we can get more intensification of land use within our city. And I know I phoned Lisa Helps, who's the mayor of Victoria. They've already gone through that process. The mayor of Yellowknife, Northwest Territories, they're going through that process to give more intensification, which is an idea that was brought to council or to the planning board, I believe, Mr. Forbes. Planning board agreed with it, but council didn't agree with it. So there are ideas being generated because of this issue of affordability, and I think that's why it's very important that this Affordable Housing Advisory Committee continues beyond 2022, 2023, and so forth.
Do we have anything else? Do we have anything else? It's 1:10 almost. You gotta get back to work, don't you? Me too. If that's everything, I guess we can adjourn this meeting.
Is that the last meeting we had, you had the deputy minister, what's her, Jamie, and her number one director, Jason Doyle, there, and they were anxious to be part of a team that would go around and promote the idea of cooperation among all levels of government. I found that really, really interesting that they wanted to do that, and I got a call from them not too long ago saying, can we move on that? So it could be the city, or Three Rivers is interested in us doing a presentation down there. We haven't done a presentation for your council yet, and we could get the Montreal CMHC on the phone, and Moncton could actually come in person. I would say there's an appetite out there for cooperation, collaboration, and we should really move on it, as Mike says, before the snow flies. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the main focus should definitely be getting anyone who's unhoused in Charlottetown into some form of housing before the winter time, even if it's just temporary, even if it's a motel room, a church. We need to, like, next month is September, it's gonna already be cold.
Or a trailer.
Yeah, even a
Yeah,
trailer.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, anything, like, for a short-term solution. Obviously, we need to work on long-term solutions, but the most urgent is people out in the cold and getting hurt, dying. Like, homelessness can kill you in the winter.
Well, we had a death that sparked a big conversation, what guy's name, but he couldn't find a place to stay, and he jumped over the bridge, that got everybody thinking.
So, look, I know that everybody wants to go, but in this discussion, and it's just a sort of a little bit of a follow-up, the piece of the puzzle that you cannot forget, and this group can have a big role on it, it is the public. It's the places, it's your neighborhood. They have a lot of say in this debate as well. And so on that public education piece, I mean, we're all as only good as the solutions we're all bringing to the table. So I know the federal government is spending a lot of money on trying to educate the public as to why, density, all of these planning issues, these tools that we have in our toolbox are in the interest of all citizens. And the more that you can convince them, the easier it is for our elected officials to ensure that they get accommodated in the timely manner that is expected. And I will leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you.